welcome back to another TVGP Spoilercast. It's been a little bit of time since we did one. I think the last one was What Remains of Edith Finch. If you never listen to one of these, we're going to be spoiling the hell out of Assassin's Creed Origins this time. So this is your one and only warning. All the spoilers happen after this. So if you're still playing it, tap out. We will be here. I don't think I've ever removed an episode, so this will be here whenever you're ready to play it. If you haven't played it yet, go do it. It's great.
Yes. It was number 3 on my Game of the Year list last year.
Yeah, that's a great spot.
Yeah.
So go play it. We will still be here whenever you're ready for us. So, spoilers from here on out. We talked about in TVGP episode 538 and 539, we talked about sort of the first two tiers of targets, I think the game calls them. The Order of the Ancients, which is not a great name.
It's the Deck of 52, and we all know that. Yeah,
exactly. All to find out who killed Hemo, your son.
Do we want to do a quick rundown at all of them?
Yeah, I think a lot of the first tier, those first 5, aren't super interesting.
Well, no, I mean, the first one is the guy you fight outside of, as part of the tutorial, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. Where you, break out and it's like, hey, what's up?
Yep. Then after that, you got the priest in Siwa.
Yep.
Who you Mr. Bean assassins your way to getting him. Which still tickles me that it's great that, A, you can do that. You can completely accidentally kill these targets.
Yeah.
But then B is the fact that it happened so much to you and didn't happen once to me.
I just turn a corner. It's like, hey, who's that? Oh, it's my target. Stab.
Yep.
Then the animus falls.
Then you got the meeting with Aya, which I love that. I love the first time you meet his wife after you've been introduced. You're gradually introduced to Bayek and his journey, and then you meet his wife, and it's like, oh, these are the perfect couple.
Yeah, she's super cool. She's a total badass. She's like, oh yeah, by the way, I've been off killing a bunch of dudes. Remember when they killed our son? I've just been killing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, great.
She killed the vulture and the ram, 2 people we never get introduced to.
Yep. Which is... I really like that, where she comes back and she's like, hey, I've been busy. These 2 dudes are dead. What have you been doing?
I got 2 of them as well. Let's see. At that point, when you first meet her as well, is when you get the Hidden Blade and you get the Snake mission, which is I'm pretty sure that's the guy in the bathhouse.
It is, yeah.
And that sequence is incredible because I completely forgot, from my previous Assassin's Creed games, I completely forgot the whole reason why Altair is missing his ring finger.
Yep.
And then you remember why really quickly on that mission, when to prove a point, he has to chop his own finger off to kill that guy. Yeah,
it's such an interesting scene because it's kind of... He forgets it's there, and then while the snake is... I think what they were trying to convey is that the snake is much stronger than Bayek was expecting.
Yeah.
And it's not like he goes up to him, he stabs the snake, and he's like, all right, see you later. The snake starts fighting back pretty strongly, and when Bayek is getting drowned in the bath that the snake was in, he reaches up and accidentally... the Hidden Blade comes out and chops his finger off.
Yep,
and kills the dude at the same time.
I think he's got the closed fist, hasn't he? And he does that punch thing where he punches him and at the same time activates it.
Yeah.
And then, for me, that was just one of those moments where just everything tenses up and it's just like, no, thank you.
But it's, for a game that it was so... seemed to be hesitant at the beginning to talk about any of the beginnings of... I'm trying not to use the word origins. Seem to use the...
We're going to have to use that word, dude, because this game is a drip feed of, hey, do you get this reference? Look at this reference I just give you.
Yeah, especially in the ending cutscene. So it's been so hesitant to lean on the word origin to sort of talk about the way they sold Origins was... This is where the fight between Assassins and Templars started. Here's, where the Templars started, and here's where the Assassins started. And up until that point, it's sort of been so far yeah, I mean, he's cool. Yeah, you got the hidden blade. Okay, cool. Like, stuff's happening.
Yeah.
But that very moment was like, oh, all right, here's where the wheels start turning.
Yeah, it's also, I do love the fact that I don't think throughout the entire game they ever refer to them as the Templars, do they?
No, I think it's just the Order of Ancients.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you played any of the other ones, it's sort of like Order of Ancients. Wink.
Yes.
It's the Templars.
There's definitely that big wink there as well.
Well, because what's so interesting is you almost see the evolution of the Order of Ancients ethos growing throughout this game as they start influencing Cleopatra and they start gaining control over Julius Caesar, which I almost misspoke because I went to the zoo the other day and they showed us a snake called Julius Squeezer. It was a python, and I thought that was a really great name. It's a boa constrictor, which is just the perfect name. But you can see them sort of getting their hooks into these famous and influential people behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I was just about to say that exact same thing. It's like they realize how much more they can do from the shadows than out in public, and then that gives them more desire to do more and control more, because at the end of the day, none of them feel threatened because they're not on the line. It's their puppets. There are the things that are...
Yeah, like, they're all like normal priests and family men and all this, and like, it's really interesting to see the assassins near the end of the game start to gain a better appreciation for doing that sort of wet work behind the scenes, and like, if you want to make a change, that's really where you do it.
Yeah, because you start, like, Bayek starts getting this rep as, like, the really good cop, really good, helpful guy for the Egyptians.
Yeah,
he becomes target number one for the Greeks and the Romans. Like, they start looking at him as a threat rather than the hero, which the Egyptians view him as, which is part of the whole political struggle, which I do love the fact that the game has that struggle between, like, it develops throughout the course of the game. Like, at first, it's the Greeks and the Romans and the clash of culture. Like, it's like it's a civilization cultural victory that the Greeks are going for. Like, slowly making their way in, using truces and stuff like this to try and expand their influence within Egypt itself.
And trying to do it sort of properly.
Yeah, whereas then you get the Romans who, as Romans were just very... They had the great culture, but they were also an armed force that was pretty much one of the greatest armed forces of all time.
Right.
Like, and that was their preferred method of doing it. But it's around about the time that you get the hidden blade that you first get introduced to Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is actually something they do very well in this game, is they always introduce, in the previous games, they introduce people from history as allies to the assassins. And it's defaulted that way. It's like, yes, okay, the Pope in 2.
Right.
You know
Darwin is going to help the assassins.
Yeah, you know the Pope is the bad guy, but then you get Darwin, or you get, Edison, or you get these famous figures from history helping the assassin side.
Famous good guys.
Yeah, and that's how Cleopatra is presented to you.
Right.
Is as one of these figures from history, along with Apollodorus and all these people that Aya is talking to.
Yeah.
Like, that's her side of the fence, whereas you kind of dip in and out of it as you help Egypt, you help her. But that's mostly Aya's side of things, is helping out, Cleopatra and that kind of thing.
It's interesting to see Aya. This is like the beginning of the schism between Aya and Bayek, where Aya wanting to help Cleopatra so much drives a wedge between the two of them, because Bayek sort of sees Cleopatra as a means to an end, where it's like, we need to fix and help Egypt. She could be good for Egypt as a whole.
Well, she was really well regarded, wasn't she? Because this is like after she's been overthrown by her younger brother, I believe.
Yeah, the younger Ptolemy.
She was viewed as God in human form. Like, she was viewed as the goddess of Egypt. Like, that's how popular she was. Yeah. I think he views that as the chance to get Egypt back onto its pinnacle. He views that. This was good then, let's make it good now, using this figure. Whereas Aya more views it as a case of, like you said, it's like, she's looking at an even bigger picture than just Egypt. She's looking, like, globally, she's looking at expansion and things like that.
Yeah, and she has aspirations of her own, too. Like, she's hitching her horse to Cleopatra's cart because it's good for Aya as well. Like, Aya wants to do bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
It's also, roughly at this point is when we get the flashback into present day, which is something we haven't discussed yet, but I love the introduction. I think we talked about it on one of the shows, so we don't need to go over it too much here, but the introduction to Lila and Diane, and that character progression there. At this point in the game is when we get the flashback to the mercenaries appearing.
Yeah, which is a really cool scene.
Yep, and it's also really kind of dark because that's when we lose Diane.
Yep.
And that's when Lila just kind of goes a little bit off the deep end, and it's just like, her story goes really dark really quick from this point, because she goes from stubborn determination to prove that she's right to stubborn determination of, you killed my friend, I'm going to mess you up.
Yeah. Well, and we're also getting some really important information about the Animus, because Lila wants to further her position in Abstergo, and every time she gets close to anything with the Animus, either they sort of make a thinly veiled reference to the movie, or they say, like, don't worry about it. Like, shut up, whatever you're talking about. But Lila starts noticing more and more executives will keep disappearing for suspicious reasons. And this is where you find out that she made this Animus herself, and she is not related to Bayek or Aya at all. She's found a way to dive into anybody's memories, no matter if they're related to her or not, which I think is a really, really big reveal. Yes,
that's one of the huge moments. It's something that Diane keeps warning her about as well, is you really shouldn't be doing this, but kind of, I'm your handler, so I'll kind of make sure that you're okay. You also learn that, like, a lot of the progression she has made, like, she does a good job of showing her as someone who's obsessed with the Animus, first and foremost. She really is. But also, she's enough of a tech whiz that she refines it. And during her career in Abstergo proper, before she came out and came up with this side of the Animus, she's responsible for so many jumps in the Animus technology that other people have stolen from her. Like, the lady who she was very clearly wanted to be in a relationship with, who they went out for dinner once or twice, and then all of a sudden, this high up executive is ignoring her, and the Animus is suddenly improved, and it happens to be in her designs.
Right.
Like, okay.
And she makes a lot of improvements surrounding the bleeding effect, which has always been the problem with the Animus. I feel like there's so much good stuff there that it would take us a while to dive into, but I think one of the more interesting things about when Deanna gets killed is that Lila doesn't have her safety net anymore, someone telling her to get out of the Animus to make sure it doesn't hurt her. And I think seeing that spiral is really interesting.
That's genuinely, like, the route she takes throughout the rest of the game is, especially when you come to the end with her, it's really, really interesting. Like, her obsession with everything to do with the Animus, from Subject 17, all the improvements that she does now. She's essentially experimenting on herself.
Right.
Like, it's a good direction to take the series forwards as a whole. I guess, to give you that number one female main character. Thank goodness, at last. Number two, someone who was inside the company but kind of hates it at the same time. Like, so knows, or is at least aware of both sides of the argument, especially after experiencing what she does through Bayek.
Well, and someone, they flirted a little bit with that with the modern day stuff in Black Flag, but at that point it was very clearly like, I'm an assassin infiltrating the Templar company. This is really much more of, I just love the Animus, and they don't want me to work on it, so I'm just going to go do some cool stuff by myself. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah. If we jump back into actual Egypt, we do get introduced to the Scorpion and Jackal at this point. Lucius Septimus, the big Roman general guy, who is meeting, like, this is where the real conflict of the game starts, I think, is where Cleopatra is meeting with these people who are associated with the Order of the Ancients.
Yeah.
In order to gain a relationship with Caesar, because she believes Caesar can help her maintain the throne.
Stabilize the region.
Exactly.
Kick out Ptolemy.
And he stops Bayek from killing this guy because, no, he's one of my guys, we do it our way.
Yep.
And in our way, he's done nothing wrong, so he stays exactly healthy as he should be.
Right.
According to our opinion. We also get Paul Polytemi, I believe his name is.
Ptolemy?
Yes. Yeah. He gets nommed on by crocodiles at this point, and Cleopatra ascends to the throne.
That was a really interesting scene because Cleopatra says, like, yo, if you see my brother, Ptolemy, like, feel free to take care of him. And Aya's like, okay. And Aya sees Ptolemy leaving and decides not to kill him for whatever reason, and then he gets chomped on, and then Cleopatra blames her.
Yep.
Like, Aya at one point says, like, that was the deal, and now you're going to go back on it? That's not how that works.
Yep. And it's actually that kind of kicks off the whole formation of the Brotherhood, which is, like, where this game starts getting really interesting is when it's like Aya and Bayek both realize we've been backstabbed by everybody.
Yep.
The Order of the Ancients killed our son. We've been doing our best to get revenge on that, which we haven't talked about their characters. We talked about it on the show proper. Their arc through this whole thing is incredible.
Yeah.
But it's them forming the Brotherhood. It comes about maybe 3/4 of the way through this game. It's like real close to the end. It's like, these people have power. These people have got this weird golden orb that we don't know what it is. We don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. We know as the players because we've played Assassin's Creed games before.
Oh my god, it's the apple feed.
But that's when the Brotherhood comes together. And it's like Bayek and Aya and like all of their little friends, like the politician guy who's got all of the... He's the guy who's got all the spies and the workers and everywhere. And
yep. And like that huntress lady they know.
Yep. And then it's that guy's daughter who gets taken. As his daughter, I believe, is the daughter who gets kidnapped.
Yes.
When we get to the Sobek mission, which, I mean, there's little bits and pieces here, but the Sobek mission is one of the big standouts for me because they break rule number 1 of most media, which is you don't harm animals and you don't harm kids.
Oh yeah, this is the one for... Yeah, that was the Sobek one, right? Yeah, the crocodile.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up her name here. Yeah, but you're right. They do break the rule of... Berenike is the one. Is the crocodile.
And, yeah, she basically murders a very young girl.
Like, yeah, you fight in the arena against those two guys, and you're like, "Hey, man, you killed this girl. That's not cool. I don't care who gave me my marching orders, but I'm gonna take you out." And they're like, "We didn't. Why would we kill a girl? That's horrible. It's a kid. It's this lady." It's like, oh,
yep. And then you learn that she's actually kidnapped the guy and his wife, their daughter as well.
Yep.
And then it becomes this like big rush of time where it's just like, no, we need to go and solve this issue because there's a child's life on the line.
Yeah.
And yeah, things go really badly because by the time you get there, she's already dead.
Yeah.
And
that was surprising.
Yeah. What was surprising to me was it was the rocks tied to the feet trick, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't crocodiles, it wasn't stabbed, it was drowning, which...
Yep.
Oh, that moment really hit me hard, and then, while the mission, like you said, you do the gladiatorial arena thing to figure out who it is. You meet your old friend, you eventually go, and your friend is the crocodile's bodyguard.
Yep.
Which made me laugh because, again, you Mr. Beaned your way through that and didn't even realize who it was.
Hey, who's this lady? Oh, well, I ran past her corpse, and he's like, "I'm sorry, dear friend, it came to this." I was like, oh, man, that's a bummer. Well, that would have been a cool reveal.
Yeah. I stalked them, and then I put her to sleep, and then assassinated the crocodile, and then left her asleep on the floor and walked away.
Oh, wow.
So I even did it non-lethally.
Right.
But that scene in the duat between him and the crocodile, whoever that actor is, 100% round of applause to him for Bayek, because that scene is heart-wrenching. And it's not even his kid, but you can feel the emotion coming from him in that scene, and it's like, this is a kid you barely even knew. So it does a good job of reflecting how he must feel about his own child getting put through something similar.
Because he has like the horrible 1-2 punch that not only is his kid dead, but the Order of Ancients made him stab his son through the chest. Like, Bayek killed Hemu.
Yep.
Which is just the worst gravy on top of that sandwich.
Yep. It's really, really... It's a heart-wrenching kind of moment. Now, I know there was somebody else you said that you preferred over the Sobek one. Which one was it for you?
Oh, yeah. I liked the Scarab. The one with the guy who was digging out the
desert, yeah.
Yeah, the desert city, and it turns out is that guy. And I liked that one a lot because it, for the first time that I can remember in the series, it really dealt with you as an assassin took out a bad guy. Like, he's clearly evil and he's clearly doing bad things. But then at the same time, he had a wife and a kid and a dad. Like,
yeah,
he had a whole
well. You have dinner with them, you have meals with them, and you know he is a good guy to his family. Until
he, like, knocks you out with something he put in your drink, and then you're like, oh, he's actually really bad. And then having this moment where his son is like, you killed my dad, like, I'm coming for you at some point. And seeing Bayek sort of being stabbed by that, and then sort of having to say, like, your dad wasn't really the good dude you thought he was. Like, you need to talk to somebody and start learning the truth, because he wasn't a good person.
Yeah, that's an absolutely amazing moment. Like, that's, I think, probably maybe three to five of these people had really solid stories. I think those two are the top two: the Sobek one and the crocodile and the scarab.
I actually liked the fight with the hyena. It's the one where you're
the desert
at the bottom of the pyramids, and she keeps dropping smoke bombs, and you're sort of sniping at each other. That was a cool fight, but the rest of it leading up to that was sort of okay.
Yeah, we do get the reveal that the staff that corresponds with the apple is in Alexander the Great's tomb, and you do the whole thing to... That's what makes Caesar and Cleopatra get together, is they basically reforge the Apple of Eden to a point where it can actually be used again.
Yeah, to open that vault from the very beginning of the game.
Yep, which is a great loop back around to, like, Alexandria is like the first big city you go to, and then to loop all the way back around there is a really good moment.
Yeah, go back to Siwa and open up the vault.
Yeah, and then we get the after all of that, we get the final thing, which you talked about on today's show, which is the 45 minute jump from location to location to location.
Yeah,
it's... Let's start with this. Well,
we didn't talk about it on the show because I think it's a sort of an interesting spoiler, but there are certain points in the game where you play as Aya, and you basically played a watered-down version of the Black Flag sailing fighting system.
Yep.
That's sort of a little neutered and not as solid. And it's mostly fine, but near the ending of this game, you go through and you sort of kill the rest of the Order of the Ancients, and when you have to do this, and you're playing as Aya, who doesn't have any of the skills that you're used to as Bayek,
yep.
A lot of that was sort of like, I kind of want to wrap this thing up, because this is so monumentally different from what I've been playing up to this point.
Yeah. Well, I do love the fact that they, at one point, Caesar gives, like, it's when Caesar, Bayek, and Cleopatra and everybody are all on the same side, Caesar gives Bayek a job to do while getting to Alexandria. I think it's fighting the Greeks. I believe the Romans fighting the Greeks. And Aya's like, why are you sending him to do something I can do? I'm going to be there. Let me do it.
Yeah, it's the one with her lighting lighting the fire at the top of that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, where she's like, I can do that. Like, why are you doing that? I can do that.
Like, that's a really great moment, especially when Bayek goes back and Caesar's like, why are you here? And why are those torches not lit?
Right, like,
and
why did I leave a woman to do it? He's like,
Yeah.
hey, man, like, can you be cool? Like, she can... I will take you out. She can do this.
Yeah, but... Luke jumping around a little bit, but yeah, Bayek, we do the whole backstabbing formation of the Brotherhood, that kind of thing. But then we get to Bayek finds Flavius, who's the guy who stopped you from killing the other guy.
Yep, he's like the guy right under Caesar.
Yeah, you get him. So you get to... He's got the apple, I believe?
Yeah,
at that time?
He has the apple and the staff, because you gave it to Apollodorus, I think it was, at some point. You're like, I don't know what this thing is, dude, just hold on to it.
Yes, and then he gives it to Flavius, who is basically the leader of the Order of Ancients.
Yep.
And you assassinate him with Bayek. Then the apple gets taken by somebody else.
Yep.
And then you jump over to Aya, who is then heading to Rome.
Right.
And it's... Wait, why are we in Rome all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Wait, is this what I think it is? And then you're going through, I think it's the Roman consulate building, and you're going over all the gardens and stuff like that, and then you drop down, and then you meet the guy who was protected originally, except now you're fighting him as Aya with, like you said, no combat skills, no nothing.
Yep.
And he's got really enhanced with the apple, I'm assuming, like the chain thing that he keeps whipping around.
Yeah, it's some like magic. He freezes you and like you float in the air for a little bit, which was sort of frustrating.
Yep. Eventually, shocker, Aya kills him, and that's when we get to the Caesar scene, which...
Yeah.
I kind of loved it. Like,
yeah?
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of love the fact that, like, it's well known Caesar was killed in the floor of the Senate. Like,
well, and when Aya is walking into the Senate, it says, it's something like 59 BCE, the Ides of March, and it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure I know what's gonna happen here.
yeah.
I do really like that. I like 95% of it. I do like that she puts on the robe, and it very much looks like the assassin's robe.
Yep.
And she's the one who gives the first stab, and then all the senators. The only thing I hate is how they changed the famous Caesar line. And he says, instead of saying, you too, Brutus, he says, you too, my son? I was like, that's wrong. Like, it's A2 Brute. Like, it's his name is literally in the... But I thought it was cool that it's one of the few times that Origins does the stuff that Assassin's Creed is famous for, which is the Assassins and Templars were behind every famous event. And it's one of the few times it does it in this game, and I think it's really successful.
Yeah, because the whole story has been leading up to that moment. It's Cleopatra's rise, her downfall, then her rise again, and then her downfall again. And then, like you said, it's the wink and the nods. It's like combined between the experience of Aya and Bayek. You get the assassins, like the regime that they have. You get the white cloak from her. You get the hidden blade from him.
Yeah.
Like, after that scene, they actually have the meetup where they both talk about everything that's happened again. It's like their last meetup, and they decide they can't be husband and wife anymore. They don't work as a couple.
It's one of my favorite scenes easily in this game, where they both meet together and they both come to the realization that they don't work anymore. Like, revenge has pulled them apart, and the grief over their child dying has pulled them apart. And they both agree at the same time that, this isn't working out anymore. There's no real fight about it. It's just like, Aya says, I have my stuff to do. I've got to leave again. And Bayek says, well, I've got my stuff to do here. Like, I've got to start building the Brotherhood on over here. And I like the not subtle at all dropping of the eagle skull into the sand. And when Aya picks it up, it's the Assassin's Creed logo. And it's like, There it is. All right, that's cool.
Did you know that that's what it's actually based off beforehand?
No, I had no idea.
I think it's mentioned in one of the previous games in the codex, like one of the loading screens tooltips was, did you know the Assassin's Creed symbol, or the assassin symbol, is actually based on the shape of an eagle's skull when placed flat onto a piece of paper? So
yeah, I thought that was really cool, and that was like one of the strongest final moments in that game was, after that, it's very much Bayek building up the Assassin's Brotherhood and, watching people chop their fingers off because they believe in the movement and all that, and seeing Aya, doing her work elsewhere and disappearing into the crowd, and, the beginnings of the Assassins and the Templars really founding there.
Before we talk about the final spoiler, it is worth mentioning, I love we talked about it on the show, but the fourth wall breaking stuff that they do in the machines underneath.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that next.
They are incredible. So, in fact, we'll cover that last then. So, shall we discuss the final scene outside of the Animus?
Yeah, this is the part that I accidentally got spoiled by the selectable characters in Discovery Tour, where I'm going through and I was like, oh, it's Desmond's dad.
Yep.
Okay, well, I bet he shows up in modern day, and I like that they didn't take very long to get it. Desmond's dad is there and wakes Lila up and says, like, hey, you don't have much of a choice. You're going to come with us, and you need to bring this new Animus. We really need you, and we need what that Animus does, which we'll get to in a second. And either you can stay here and die, either through the Animus or Abstergo getting you, or you can get in my van and you can come with me. Yeah. And I like that she says, like, you need me? I don't necessarily need you, but I'm going to go with you for now.
Yeah, because that's the thing is, he doesn't actually... He threatens her without threatening her. He never says, we will kill you. He never says, if you don't come with us, we will be the ones responsible for your death. He's like, no, if you don't want to come with us, that's fine. I will get up. I will walk away. Abstergo will find you, and you will be done.
Yeah, they already know where you are. Mm-hmm. We should go.
Yeah. And his other option is, get your stuff, let's go. We can keep you safe. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of love the fact that it's Desmond's dad. I really loved it because it's a great way to bring Desmond and the whole Subject 17 thing back into the circle again.
Yep.
Because we knew his dad was an assassin, because Desmond talks in Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 about how his family was always off the grid, always doing training, always doing stuff like that. Never a credit card, never an online account, never a social security number, nothing like that. Always off the grid, and it was him coming onto the grid and getting a job in a bar and wanting to have a regular life, which kicked off the events of Assassin's Creed 1.
That's right, yeah.
So you knew his dad was in, and you knew his dad was deep in, you just didn't know how deep, and he clearly never spoke to Desmond about it until he thought that Desmond would be ready.
Yeah. And now Desmond's dead.
Yeah, and now Desmond's dead after being horrifically, essentially tortured throughout the Animus process.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the last big thing to talk about is probably the fourth wall breaking for civilization stuff, and I like how they unfold it. The criticism I had when we were talking about it on the show is that each individual encounter with the narrators is just a touch too long. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily bad. It's not like, all right, tuck in for half an hour, someone's going to talk to you. But part of what I thought was so interesting is leading up to the Sphinx reveal stuff is how they're very much saying, like, you should really be, you, Lila, and you, the player, should maybe be questioning what time really means and whether or not you're seeing everything.
Yeah, it does the same thing that I thought Interstellar did so well with gravity, like the movie Interstellar. It starts making you question, what is gravity? What effect does gravity have if we could actually control it?
Right.
And it does that exact same thing, but with time in this.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's more here than you realize is going on. Time is not just a linear point A to point B thing.
Yeah.
And they start throwing out stuff about string theory and comparable
Yep.
universes and X does not equal Y and so on and so forth. Like, they're very slow breakdown to the point where they make you as Lila and as a player start questioning what is reality. Like, like at this point, like, she's in a simulation inside of a simulation.
Right.
Am I inside of a simulation playing a simulation inside of a simulation? Like, it starts going down that kind of train, but not to the point where it's just like you're just having fun now. It takes itself so seriously enough to be able to say, no, just start thinking about it. We're not saying it's true. Just think about these things.
Yeah, and I think the thing that was so interesting for me is the very last reveal in the Sphinx is that Lila has created a machine that is more powerful than she knows. Mm-hmm. And part of what the first civilization wanted to let them know is you made an animus that does do the thing you thought it does. It allows you to go into someone else's genetic memories. But also, what if the thing you made allows you to change history, not just view it?
Yep.
And then they say, like, you need to remember what you can do, and then it spits out the Assassin's Creed.
Everything is permitted.
And I'm just like, what?
When you were doing the hangout with Mr. Boston, and I lost my mind.
Yeah, that was the scene
I was listening to.
Well, it's so funny because, like, the game just drops that. It's like, hey, what if this thing you built is actually really important, and also everything's permitted, and then, like, drops the mic and, like, shuts the game down. It's just like, oh, okay, great. Mm-hmm. This happened.
Yeah, and it's stuff like that that makes me excited going forward as to, yes, you are back online with what you had the promise with Assassin's Creed 1 and 2. Like, 2 was a good... 1 was a good teaser. 2 was a really good follow-up and a good build. Brotherhood was another great step, and then from then it's just felt like the series has taken back steps.
Or it's like treaded water in good instances.
And this is one of those things where, like, this reveal, this sequence of events, this process has made me think, oh, this could be really, really good now.
Yeah, like I said in TVGP this week, we recorded episode 540. So much of this game is back on the right path. And this modern day stuff, the amount that's in there and the potential series impact it has, and the way, like you said, that they're wrapping up the Subject 17 stuff, and they're sort of starting to put a bow on some of the older stuff and start stepping forward with how that story goes. That makes me feel so much better because they're actually making a choice and they're pushing that story forward, and they're not really worried about it.
No, it's good science. Like, I love this game. Like, to be honest, on a year like 2017, the fact that it made it to number 3, it was pushed out by Prey and Resident Evil 7. Yeah,
like 2 just full on 10 out of 10 games. And I think the thing that we've talked about with to sort of wrap it up, we've talked about Origins a lot over the last couple of weeks. I think the thing that makes me feel so good is that it's a good game. Like, it plays well, it's a good Assassin's Creed game, but for people like Moon and I, it's a really great modern-day Assassin's Creed game. The laptop is fantastic. If you want to dive deep, there's so much good, interesting stuff there about Subject 17 and about, Lila and all that stuff that is really interesting and really feeds people like Moon and I for saying, like, okay, now they're actually doing something with the modern day, and they're doing something with how Assassin's Creed plays and functions, and that stuff coupled together is really exciting.
Yeah, and, like, I think they hit the perfect balance as well. They had just enough modern day stuff in there that if you want to be in and out, you can be in and out.
Yep.
But there is more there for people like us, for people who are 100% invested in this stupid,
in a franchise
dumb story.
The sun exploding dumb story.
Yeah. It's there for us if we want it.
Yeah.
But it's not. If you don't want it, you don't have to engage with it. You can play the amazing game based in Egypt and enjoy that. You don't have to think, who's Desmond Miles and who's this William fella and
Yeah, who
What's
cares?
this Subject 17 stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so Assassin's Creed Origins is really great, and we talked about it a little bit in this week's episode, but for the first time in a really long time, I'm very excited to see where Assassin's Creed goes, both gameplay and the modern day stuff, because if they want to keep telling stories with Lila, I mean, she's a really interesting, sort of headstrong, stubborn, cool character that I would like to play more as for a lot of games. Like,
she's already got a huge backstory. Like, her backstory is so complicated just based on the information on the laptop.
Yep. Yeah, stick with it. I mean, this is all really good stuff. So, I think that's about covers all the stuff we needed to cover.
Yeah, I think so.
Can't think of anything else.
The big points. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. And I don't know what our next Spoilercast is, but we will see you then. Bye.
Assassin's Creed Origins Egypt.
That's right. 2.
Rogue.
Wake up. Be the chaos that comes to be. Gods are just like you and me. Remember, nothing is real. Everything is permitted.
Papa? Jump.